that, and then okay, we're good there. Let's do this, Mike. You ready?
Yeah, my low.
Uh, a little bit. I mean, you should be able to see, right? You can see yourself in the camera. That's what you look
Yeah,
like. That's how it's recorded. So I can only pull you up so much more before I start getting the black. So
I can. I can adjust myself a second.
yeah, as much as you want. That's fine. Okay, let's do this then. All right. I got the rundown. I just got to hit record there. Okay, let's do this. 5, 4, 3. It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this. Welcome to the Games Beat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything about the world of games so you don't have to think for yourself. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is
Mike Minotti.
Hooray. You sound so good, Mike. What's going on?
I know. I finally have a better mic now. That's
What?
nice.
I feel like I sent you a mic and it must have got
Okay.
adopted by a different Minotti brother.
So, all right. I actually have one. I have two of these here, and always have right next to me. So I got a third one because, like, I'm podcasting in person. We each need our own.
Oh,
And
okay.
I don't. I have a dumb, idiot brain. So I just never like. I was like,
Oh,
these
no.
things are connected to those. I can't use them over here.
Oh, no, you dumb idiot brain.
So, but yeah, now I'm like,
I mean,
this
USB
one.
is very difficult in your defense. That's fair.
I'll tell you what, I thought it was a lot more complicated than that. I'm an idiot. But hey, look, I'm here now.
Hey, whatever. I'm not complaining. I'm very happy. You sound great. In today's episode, we have some news. We have some games. We'll talk about all of that. First, though, I want to thank everybody for joining us. You can get more from Mike and me at gamesbeat.com. If you have something to share with us, email the podcast at gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. Thank you to Carlos Ayin, who is Insane in the Rain Music on YouTube for the use of our theme song. And you can support the show by going to anchor.fm/GamesBeatDecide. You know what? Just go to anchor.fm/GamesBeat-Decides if you want to help out the show. If you're listening to this on the website player widget, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. Also Spotify. And if you like the show, rate us on any of those services. It helps people discover it. Or tell a friend. Can also do that.
No one has friends.
Yeah, I know. We're all just at home alone now. That's how it's going to be forever, Mike. But at least we have video games, right? Like Halo Infinite coming out. That's gonna be pretty good.
Oh man, what a week it's been.
Yeah, it's a lot happened this week. It's like you think back and it was like, man, that was a long one because it just kept going and kept going.
Yeah.
That is the first story I have here. I feel like it's been pretty well covered by everyone now. We're just getting to it on Friday. But I guess just real quick, what were your thoughts on Halo Infinite getting delayed?
I mean, I was surprised. Like, I certainly believed that the game could use a delay, right? I don't think too many people didn't think that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, Microsoft has had this thing pegged as a launch title for their new system for years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Since at least last year, yeah.
right. So, and I mean, it's so weird because what AAA game these days doesn't get delayed at some point? And like, I'm sure it was like extra scary to kind of pull the trigger there. I guess the interesting thing to me is like, does this not happen if like for whatever reason the response to that reveal was good or better, or is the fact that it didn't go over well and that everybody was memeing on it, was that like where they're finally like, okay, I guess like people aren't gonna go for this at this stage.
It probably helps, right? Like if you're on that team and you're trying to convince people like it does need a delay and it does need more time, you could point to the reaction and be like, see, listen, like I know what I'm talking about. All these people are right. Let's delay this thing. So it's probably just like a matter of those voices now having more ammunition to win out in that argument. But Phil Spencer went on Animal talking with Gary Whitta this past week, and he was talking about it. He's like, it was my call. Everyone gives me their opinion, and everyone tells me the reasonings why we should do one thing or another, or they give me options like releasing one part of the game now and other parts of it later. But in the end, I made the call, and I think this was the right thing for Halo and for Microsoft and for the Xbox Series X in the long run, and that's why we did it. I think you're right. Like it's that sounds like it was probably the right call. But it does leave Microsoft in a pretty precarious position for this holiday, right?
Yeah, we can kind of talk about long-term impacts and how, you look at the last several launch lineups and like outside of the Switch, none of the recent systems have had great launch lineups. And you could certainly rebound from that, but you certainly don't want to get off to a bad start. And I feel like that we may be seeing that happen now, but it's more likely. Because that was the one thing we knew Microsoft was going to have going forward for sure, with so many other questions we still don't know about price, and all these other things. but we figured that Microsoft was going to have a better launch title, right? Like, the Spider-Man Lost Legacy thing going up against, the new Halo. You pick the new Halo, and now
Yeah.
without that, like it's looking like, even compared to what launch lineups have been recently for these systems, this is going to be an especially bad one. Now they'll be able to compensate a bit with, like, being able to say, look at how great the backwards compatibility is. I don't know if that makes up for not having your
No.
Halo or your Breath of the Wild or something like that.
Yeah, but it does help if you are on an original Xbox One and you are upgrading. It should be a pretty big. It should feel like a pretty big upgrade just based on the way games start running better. The games you already play, even before games start getting Xbox Series
Right.
X specific updates.
But that experience is going to be very similar to what people had when they went from an Xbox One to an Xbox One X, right?
Yeah, those
And
people I
you
think are
want
gonna. Yeah, those people are less likely gonna be happy with the upgrade. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so it's going to almost feel like another half step, I suppose, at least without, like, that one really big, exciting game to see. I mean, to be clear, we don't even know what if, like, Spider-Man is the launch title for PlayStation 5. We're assuming,
Yeah,
but we don't know.
it could get delayed too.
It's delayed. When
It's not.
they said
I don't know if
holiday,
it's
like
gonna
that
get
could be
delayed, but
December.
yeah,
I don't know.
right.
So, yeah, it's weird, and it makes me like so curious. Like what happens when this happens? Do heads roll? Is somebody in trouble? Uh, like, because I'm sure, over at 343. Is it 433 343?
343 Industries. Yeah.
343, right? I mean, with Halo 5 already not, kind of having its reputation thing, and now this, is Microsoft losing a little faith in them, you think?
I mean, yeah, probably, right? Like they probably
Yeah.
are a little bit. I think when the creative director left and they've been sort of in a rough position since then. I bet a part of that was like, yeah, Microsoft not having a lot of faith. But I mean, and then this would probably push it over the edge. But it's hard to say. Like, but we'd have to hear stories of how this goes going forward. Like, what is Phil Spencer going to step in and do something and force them to change something? Are they going to bring in help to, like, to finish the game and have someone else, like, like a Star Wars situation where, like, Star Wars Rogue One gets directed by the Godzilla director, and then as it gets closer to release, they bring in a whole other director and shoot a bunch of reshoots, and then that director doesn't even get credited, but the head, it's basically their movie at that point. Like, could something like that happen with this game? I don't know if it would go that far, and I don't even know if they're going to have enough time.
Who could they bring in, Jeff?
I mean, obviously there's a lot. You hear the rumors about them like acquiring Bungie and stuff like that, and like I definitely heard that stuff too. And it's like that would be still feels kind of wild, right? To bring in, like, to buy Bungie and then also to have them work on Halo again. Like, it would be a big deal. I think they would. I think
Let
people
alone
love
the
that.
Halo game that was going to come out in a couple months. I wonder if they're going to just, like, quote unquote, like, if they bought Halo, let's say that even happens, and who knows, like, if they had, if by Halo I meant Bungie,
Yeah.
let's say they bought Bungie, and Bungie comes in, like, I wonder if they are just going to have, like, this, like, almost ceremonial, like, look, Bungie
Yes.
helped, and, like, throw that logo on there, just
No,
to
I
make
think you're
people
right.
feel good about that.
Yeah,
Who
that's.
knows?
I mean, I think that would be, a lot of people would still love that. Like, they would just,
Oh yeah.
it would give people confidence, and maybe that's what they need. If they, and of course, like, doing that, they also they're able to put Destiny 2 on Game Pass and all that other stuff. But this is still speculation. We don't know. But I mean, I think this speaks to the point of Microsoft has invested a lot in next generation. I know that they are mostly investing in Game Pass, but Game Pass is still tied to the success of the Xbox console for the time being. And if you're spending money gathering up all these studios, getting all this content, you kind of can't just go flat-footed into the next generation. You need to be making moves somewhere, right? Like, you should be. If you have to push your big game and you still do have all this money to spend, then you probably should be going out and finding a way to spend it right now to make a big splash, to make a big impact, to ensure that those early months, or at least the first year, has some more stuff in it. And even if it's not like an exclusive, or it's not like a studio acquisition, just like bringing something to Game Pass that wasn't going to be to Game Pass otherwise. But it just sounds like that stuff could get really expensive and maybe not worth it in the end. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe their saving grace here is, and we've heard some rumblings that like the third party games are just gonna be maybe they're gonna look noticeably better on Series X.
Right.
So, and I mean, there are, if Assassin's Creed Valhalla, if Cyberpunk, and the new Call of Duty, like if those three all look that much better on Series X, like maybe that will matter.
Yeah, and it's and I brought this up. I was on a couple of shows this week and I talked about this, and then there was like news stories written about me saying this stuff, and it's just like, okay, people, like my whole point here is just that we don't know yet, and things can go sideways for either of these companies. Like Microsoft supposedly has the more powerful console. It could still come out and have issues that we just can't predict right now.
Right. I mean,
Just
the PlayStation 3 was more powerful than the Xbox 360, and third-party games were often much worse on that system.
right, and it's so yeah. But based on what we know, like for me, it comes down to looking at the specs of the PlayStation 5 and looking at that GPU clocked up to 2.23 gigahertz, which is an astronomical clock speed for a GPU. It is so much higher than most GPUs. That means that thing's going to run hot. It's going to run like especially hot, which is why that PS5 has to be gigantic and why the disk drive is on the side, so they could just shoot a tower of air right through that thing's butt all the time. Because if they didn't, that thing would be way too hot. And
Sounds just like my body.
yeah, same here. Yeah, that thing's gonna sweat like a Jeff Grubb. Yeah. But like that 2.23 gigahertz. I'm like, if that's that, and this is a variable clock speed. That it's gonna rev up to that speed. It's like, how often is it going to be able to do that? How long can it sustain this stuff? To me, that's why like the PlayStation 5 sticks out as maybe more likely having these issues than the Xbox Series X. But again, we don't know, and it's just an example of, yeah, right now we're talking about Halo and the problems Microsoft is having with games coming to the Xbox platform over the next year. Yes, sure, that's all right. But if the PS5 is more expensive to make, which is something that is, people are saying, and Sony has a more difficult time matching a lower price than Microsoft does, and then on top of that, games run worse on PS5. No proof yet, just say maybe. If all those things line up, then no one's going to be talking about Halo for the first 6 months. They're going to be talking about the games you listed, and then NBA and Madden and FIFA. And if all those games are running poorly, that's going to set the narrative for quite some time, and and then all of a sudden Halo will be ready, and it's like, okay, this generation didn't even really start until Halo came out anyhow, so it didn't matter. But this is all, again, we're very early. It all could go differently than I just said. It could go perfectly for both systems, and in a perfect world, it seems like PlayStation 5 is going to have more and better games early on, and if that's how it works out, then yeah, it'll be just fine. But you can't really predict this stuff, and that's the real point here. However, you can predict that if Epic is going to do something, they're going to spend a lot of money doing it, and that's what its fight against Apple and Google is looking at like. Like it had like its marketing department ready to go.
Man,
this whole thing
that was so calculated. Oh my god, man. That was something. It's almost impressive in a way, but also kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
I have so many emotions about this thing. Few of them positive.
Yeah.
Because like at the core of it, it's like, this idea of, I mean, I don't know if you wanted to summarize it real quick first.
Yeah, I get it. Let's go over real quick.
Here.
So Apple has rules for its store, so does Google, and basically those rules come down to, you could sell almost anything on this store, but you have to use our payment, and you can't put another app store within our app store, so you can't sell other apps or whatever. And so again, like that would enable you to use other payment services. Epic is like, well, we're gonna add our own payment services to Fortnite, and Apple's like, no, you can't do that. We're gonna take you off the store. And Epic's like, haha, you fell into our trap. And
you just put it into my trap card.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yu-Gi-Oh shit.
Yeah, it was Yu-Gi-Oh shit. That is, yeah, Epic's doing some Yu-Gi-Oh shit, and they were ready to go. They had legal paperwork ready to file. They had a cartoon short made in Fortnite. They had a cartoon ready to go.
That is what is, man.
Yeah, that's
the cartoon.
1980 Fortnite, which is a lampooning Apple's 1984 commercial where Apple was like, IBM's going to control your digital future. Isn't that scary?
By the way, there are too many people out there. I don't mean to be, because I like some people who are like, oh, people just don't understand that this was an Apple commercial from back in the day. It's like, no,
totally
we all know about that commercial. I know it happened before I was born.
Yeah,
we all know about the commercial. I don't like it anyway.
Yeah, like that commercial was actually, in hindsight, pretty stupid too. But it was like at least they
Right.
got
I mean,
at least
well,
they got
it-
Ridley Scott to direct it. Like it had like a real, like
Yeah,
there was
it
something
looked
to it.
cool.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't like it because like I thought that it was like introspective
Yeah.
or like a good adaptation of the book.
Right. Yeah. And it's like it is really like indicative of where we are, where it's like two corporations using 1984 to fight one another about who gets to control our digital
Trying to
future.
mobilize
Yeah.
internet anger and internet, which is like, don't
Hey.
do that.
Yes, please don't do that. We're all manipulated all the time so much to do it so blatantly and so bald-faced that it's like
Yeah.
everyone can tell what you're doing is actually disgusting.
Right.
A huge turnoff.
Right. Well,
And-
like,
and
to
that's
make
the-
a cartoon for your demographic that leans heavily towards like 14-year-old boys to go and like tweet hashtag free Fortnite, like to get like legal momentum.
Mhm.
I just like what is going on? That's just so weird because like where does that lead to? I don't know. That's bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm cynical. So to me, this it's like I think most people are gonna see right through this. But I mean, even if you are able to mobilize a bunch of kids,
What is that? How does that help your legal case?
I don't. I think they just think that like they looked around and they saw what kids were able to do about loot boxes, because it wasn't like parents weren't actually complaining about loot boxes. It was kids always saying, "But what about the children?" Because they didn't like loot boxes. So and I think Fortnite's or Epic is like, "Hey, we could just get them to do the same thing to be able to play Fortnite. We know how they love their Fortnite," and it's just this really like the Steve Buscemi gif mixed with just like. A real poor understanding of how all this stuff, like a poor understanding of our cynicism, where like we do remember that 1984 commercial. It absolutely has been lampooned over and over, and then to just kind of do it in a sincere way and be like, Apple did what happened to you, man? You used to be cool,
right? Because it's like we're not in a 1980s sincere world. We're in a very 1960s cynical world again. If you're looking for a parallel. So that's just bizarre. And I mean, it's like, everyone's like, oh, but like, if Epic does this, people like maybe smaller developers can make more money. And I'm like,
maybe,
I don't know,
maybe like but it's like that.
I don't know.
Epic's interests here don't match up with smaller developers exactly, and that means there's a huge gap here where things work out just fine for Epic and they don't work out for smaller developers. I think maybe there's still a chance, so I get why people are pulling for it. And to explain it, what smaller developers are hoping for here is that Epic can break any of these stores on charging 30% for every single transaction that happens within a game on iOS. So if you download Fortnite for free and you start buying skins in there or V-Bucks or whatever, Apple takes 30% of that if it happens through iOS. And Epic is always like Tim Sweeney, Epic CEO, is always positioned this as it's a tax, it's an unfair, it's not worth what they charge, but it's very clearly that it is worth what they're charging, because so many companies pay for it. I mean, even Epic tried to go around Google Play on Android, because you can do that. It's an open system, and then it gave up on that and went through Google Play because it was worth it to pay that 30% to get that much bigger audience that these companies have built. And it's not just about the audience. Like I can't remember his name right now, but it's like the creator of Spiderweb Entertainment. It's like he's been making games for forever. He does a lot of like reusing resources or whatever. He makes small games, but he used to just sell his games as like discs and then ship them to people, and then they would pay him with a credit card over the internet in like the 1990s. And he had to do like support for his own games, and when credit card issues would happen, he'd have to deal with all that stuff. And he like said, like in a GDC speech, he's like, what Apple what Steam charges that 30% it's so worth it. It costs so much more money and time to do this stuff on your own, and they know it's worth that much money, and that's why they're never gonna like undercut it. And Epic pretends like all that value isn't really there. But that doesn't mean that it isn't a problem. And it doesn't mean that it's not a problem that iOS and Apple are running a monopoly. So when a small developer tries to create a game and they have to try to give 30% to Apple, that really does ruin the profitability of a lot of games. Now, at the same time, it's not like we have a shortage of games, so I feel like it's hard to...
Right, it's like people like, this means developers can make more games. I'm like, I don't need more games.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like that's a real issue. But I mean, but I don't blame developers for wanting to make more money from their work. and having to give more money to these giant corporations, that does seem like maybe there should be a sliding scale. But yeah, this is their hope. Their hope is that is by Epic fighting Apple, maybe on the other end it comes out and suddenly Apple's like, well, we'll charge 15% or something like that, and it just doesn't seem like to me. And I feel like this always feels like me bordering on concern trolling. So in the end, I do hope that all that works out. I have a deep skepticism that like Epic's like settlement, the eventual settlement that they do with Apple, is going to include really a cut on the store. It's probably going to include a deal for Epic. It might include,
Really?
like Unreal games might get an advantage or something like that. But
I mean, they're not seeking damages,
right.
which I don't know what to think of that. But again, the very cynical part of me is thinking if they thought they could get damages, they would be seeking them.
I think
I don't
that
know.
they're very all this stuff. The way the Epic positions it is very politically savvy. They're always like, "Oh, we were just trying to charge less, and we're going to pass the savings on to you." And we're creating the Epic Game Store, and we're going to charge a less of a cut. And really, these are all short term things. In the long term, they are absolutely just Apple back in 1984, and then 20 years from now, if Epic is the one controlling all this stuff, they won't give a shit if someone's like, oh, you control too much in your monopoly. They won't care. They'll fight that. We don't. I just don't believe corporations are trying to be the good
Right.
guys.
I guess that's what it basically is. It's like, yeah, Apple kind of sucks. I don't think that Epic Games like is going to suck less if it somehow becomes like a new Apple or something like that. When that's like almost what they're trying. Because I mean, the whole point of that 1984 thing was like Apple, kind of small company, against IBM, which was this big unfair giant. And Epic Games, even that legal document is like referencing that and being like, we're Apple now, and Apple is IBM. Like, right? So, and like I guess the assumption there is that they want to be an Apple someday.
Yeah, and I mean, and of course they want to. Like, of course, that's what all these plays are about. And it's and to me, it's like if smaller developers get helped here, it will be by coincidence. It won't be, or it'll be because it is politically savvy or politically convenient for like Tim Sweeney and whatever particular position he's actually fighting for.
I mean, it's just the fact that there's like like maybe, I don't know how these things usually go, but I kind of want them to be more, I don't know, serious or professional. Like if Dr. Disrespect was getting into a fight with Ninja, I would expect them to make a cartoon to gather support,
Right.
Not like the people who are like actually have billions of dollars and like are going to make the decisions that are going to impact my life.
Yeah, and it does feel like they feel like it does just feel cheap, and it does feel like they think that we are very easy to manipulate, and it's insulting. It is. It is.
Yeah, it is. I think it's insulting and it's stupid.
Yeah,
and like I don't care. I don't really care where like the slider goes on that 30%, right? Like I'd rather neither of them got more money, but
yeah, for real. And like to like really kind of wrap a bow on this, it's Epic has sued Apple, and they've also now sued Google, who later yesterday, Google also removed Fortnite from the Google Play Store, but you can still install it on Android. So who knows how that goes? But like they're not doing this to Nintendo, Microsoft, or Sony, who all take a similar 30% cut on their consoles, which are even more closed than an iPhone, really.
Right. Sure.
If you think about it, it's pretty easy to jailbreak an iPhone, relatively speaking. It's way harder to do that to a console. So, but the reason they're not doing that is because if you make an Unreal game for console, and Unreal is the engine that Epic owns, it's like where they actually make a lot of their money. Fortnite makes actually probably most of their money right now, but Unreal also makes a ton of money. And if you're a developer making an Unreal game for console, chances are you're selling it for a premium price, and then if you have to give a 5% royalty, which is the price of using Unreal, to Epic, it makes sense. It works out mathematically usually just fine because you're making a big enough game that it's not going to matter. On mobile, you are doing a free-to-play game, and if you're giving 5% of every transaction to Epic, using Unreal doesn't make any sense compared to using Unity, which has like just an upfront licensing fee and doesn't have a royalty. And so like developers like one of the guys that started Hi-Rez Studios, which does like Paladins, and I think Rogue Company was the most recent one. He was saying, Brian, I can't remember his last name, but he was saying that developers were telling him that he was mad to use Unreal Engine on mobile because of that 5% cut. If Apple reduces its take, that 5% cut suddenly makes a lot more sense. So the long play here is that Unreal Engine isn't really working for mobile because of the way Epic's business works, and Epic would very much like it to work better for other developers so that Epic can get that cut itself. So it's it does feel like there's very transparent and obvious reasons like why things are playing out the way they are, and so yeah, again, it's very easy for me to be cynical and not believe Epic Games when they try to position themselves as the Robin Hood here.
Yeah, right. That's what it is. That's what it really is. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, but yes, I guess if people have to like just accept Epic Games as the one that's going to fight it, and maybe if it works out in the end that the stores do reduce their cut, that's a good thing. And I'll be happy to just let it happen, and we'll see. It's not like it's this fight happens. It's not really like it's affecting me. So just go ahead, go fight it out, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
And I mean, hopefully, it does work out best for everybody.
I just hope we don't. I don't know, like start getting like what political ads or something in Fortnite someday, like right, like I don't know, like hashtag Trump 2024.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. A couple of updates about like upcoming announcements. WB Interactive has basically started giving some outlines of what its DC Fandom event is going to have on the schedule. And we already knew that they were going to talk about Suicide Squad. We talked about that, I think, last week. They've confirmed it's Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That is the actual name.
That's the actual subtitle. All right.
Yes,
right.
and the reveal is coming August 22nd during that DC Fandom event. And then also, I think earlier in that day, WB Montreal will be revealing Batman. Or it'll be revealing its game, which is clearly Batman.
It's Batman Court of Owls, right?
Yeah, or Gotham Knights, but it's gonna have the Court of Owls is gonna be a part of that for sure. Yeah, so if you've been asking about those games, I know a lot of people have in my mentions are always asking about that. DC Fandom, like I've heard for a while that these were gonna be here. Now it's pretty much confirmed. So good news for you.
Are we kind of expecting the new Injustice game here too, which may supposedly had Watchmen characters in it?
That sounds very reasonable, right? Like I think it's time for one of those. And
I know I saw something about that. Like apparently Injustice 3 is going to have Watchmen, and that's what's going to make it kind of stand out. Which okay.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean,
I'd probably be more excited about that than the Suicide Squad game.
Yeah, those NetherRealm stories are pretty cool, and I would like to see their really awesome face capture tech with Dr. Manhattan. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I like this. I'd like to play a fighting game with Rorschach. Why not? I'm beyond a point of pretending that Watchmen is sacred now that it's had so many other things, right?
Yes,
like
for
whatever.
Real. Yeah, totally.
Throw them in a Mario Party game now. Who gives a shit?
Oh, that's a fun thought. All right, so a couple other stories. Ubisoft has fired Ashraf Ismail, I believe is his name. He was the creative director on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I reported this earlier, and then the story today, I think you wrote about this, where he was cheating on his wife with the fan, and the fan knew of him specifically through Ubisoft, and he conducted this affair through his Ubisoft accounts, and told the woman to send him any correspondence to his Ubisoft account, and he was lying about being married to her, and that's
which was what we call a dick move.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's taking away the ability for someone to consent to the relationship that they find themselves in, right? If you don't know the full scope of what you're involved in, because someone's lying to you, you have not actually consented to the relationship.
A lot of people would choose not to be involved in marital affairs.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you're not given that opportunity, a dick move is a good way of putting it. So, any other details here? I think were there any comments from Ubisoft or Ashraf?
No, nothing crazy. Just I'm not sure if this is the last shoe that's going to fall, because he was on leave since June, he just left. So it's like maybe he's coming back, maybe that's the punishment, but no, he's done, and probably for the better.
Yep.
I don't know. I say probably. It's for the better.
Yes, and this is of course, one of many people who have been ousted from Ubisoft. They're still a long way from proving themselves that that they're going to change. But this is part of that process. So they're going to have to keep forging ahead with this sort of thing.
I don't think they've like said like even when he left in June. I don't think they like named a new creative director for the game.
Right.
It's like somebody must be taking the helm now. But who knows?
I mean, Yves is in there, man. He's doing the code.
Yeah, that's what it is.
He rolled up his sleeve. He's doing it. Yeah. We'll have to see how that turns out. We'll have to see who's credited in there. I mean, it's not like there's unions in games that like dictates who gets the credit. So we'll see what Ubisoft decides to do with that.
Interesting. Because it almost seemed like too he was like they were almost kind of pushing him to be more of a name because he was the guy who did Origin, and they like always reminded you he did Origin and he did Black Flag. You all liked those ones.
Yes, and man, it kind of makes me feel like companies are going to get even more hesitant to start pushing people forward because of this situation. Yeah, it's not like that's the worst thing to come out of this, but it's not great for creators to continue to get pushed by the back. I mean, what's the benefit?
I guess the benefit is that you hope kind of like how you can do like. In movies, like with like, you could make a movie like Tenet and market it as like, this director.
Yes.
Right. And we saw that for like a split second. Even back then it was forced with like American McGee and like John Romero. And stuff like that,
Sid Meier, we always pulled it off.
Sid Meier, sure. But like, right. But like, I can also like people want that to happen and be a thing more. And like we're seeing a little bit like Cory Balrog's like one now, right? Where
yes,
I think
good point.
All of a sudden, if like he doesn't make God of War, people now know who he is.
All the God of War ones, right? David Jaffe was similar.
Jaffe was one,
and even Stig Asmussen.
Right, but even like Neil Druckmann, like before, like we knew who he was, but Last of Us Part 2 was when they're kind of really pushing him as like a big face of the game. It seemed like people kind of got tired of that even pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you could tell the game development really rags on someone, and then when they get a chance to talk about it, like Neil Druckmann, it's like, oh man, I could tell that you really put a lot of your soul into this, and so anytime anyone sort of chips away at it, it's chipping away at you. It's tough, and it's like, yeah, you kind of wish they would just like back off a little bit. All right, last story, NPD. The report came out this morning. Nothing major. We are still like dealing with like the pandemic stuff, so. Game sales overall still up like 34%, 35%, I think it was, and a lot, but that wasn't because of hardware. Hardware was down 2%, and that's just because it could be some shortages because a lot of consoles sold really well, but it's probably because people who wanted to go get a PS4 and Xbox One finally did so in March and April, and now they have one and they're just buying games. And anyone who was looking for one now is like, I'm definitely hearing more about an Xbox Series X and a PlayStation 5.
Right.
I should just wait, or I should just get a Switch, which is, Switch outsold everything else. Like of course it would at this point in the cycle. We did see a point where like in March and April, Switch was spiking a huge amount, but also PS4 and Xbox One were also spiking. And those spikes for the Microsoft and Sony consoles have now come to an end. But when it comes to content, that was up big. I think that was like up like 35%, like accounting for most of the growth. And that was because, in part because of a couple of big new releases, Ghost of Tsushima and Paper Mario, the Origami King. Ghost of Tsushima at number 1, then Call of Duty was number 2, and then Paper Mario was at number 3. And both Ghost and Paper Mario set some like records. Ghost of Tsushima is the fastest selling Sucker Punch Productions game ever, and then Paper Mario was the fastest selling Paper Mario game ever. It doubled the dollar sales of A Thousand Year Door.
And those are good, but you'd also kind of expect those, right?
Yes, at this point,
for these things, different. Yeah, I mean, especially Paper Mario. I mean, I talked about this last time. Not that many GameCubes were sold, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, like even like that series has been on a lot of stuff now, but other games weren't.
Like, it was on. Right, it was on 3DS, which was a popular system, and like Sticker Star was not a big hit. So.
Right, exactly. But basically, it's like this is a pretty good, in most people's estimation, a pretty good Paper Mario. Not exactly what everyone wanted, but even like even that level where I really like it, but I saw a lot of flaws in it. And I talked mostly about the flaws when I talked about that game, but I said people would probably enjoy it if they played it. Even with like that tepid response, the game is still just exploding in sales because people want more Nintendo games, and so it just feels like if they can get stuff out, it's going to sell.
Yeah, can they get stuff out?
Yeah, that's an open question. It doesn't seem like it right now, right? I mean, we still don't know. I guess we should do a check on what you're feeling about that sort of stuff. This has been a conversation we've gone back to the last couple of weeks or last couple of episodes at least. Like, what is Nintendo doing? They still haven't done much since Pikmin. Not anything really. So how are you feeling about it?
My nightmare scenario, because it can't. I don't think it can be as bad as only Pikmin.
No.
That seems hard to imagine. My nightmare scenario is Pikmin October, and then like November Pokemon Snap 2 or whatever it's called, new Pokemon Snap, and then that's it. That's my nightmare scenario. Because like
Yeah.
Pokemon Snap be fine, but like let's be honest, like Pokemon Snap is not like a
It's a
very
rental.
deep
Yeah.
like it's kind yeah it's yeah. I mean that's what the original was, and I'm sure
Yes.
this one will hopefully have something more to it, but even still, like I don't know.
I was on a show last night, the Nintendo Shack podcast, and one of the hosts, she does not believe me that the Mario games are real, and I was telling her, my coworker Mike Minotti is the same way. He does it.
Yeah,
I can tell he doesn't want to be hurt. He doesn't want to get hurt.
I am literally I am. I'll tell you what, I'm almost certainly not expecting them this year anymore. Like, because I'm like, we should have heard by now, right? I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to imagine now. Like, there's going to be announced and come out before the end of this year. It's just way easier to think. Like,
Yeah.
I think they must be real. At least I hope so. But like, something certainly got screwed up in the production there because of COVID. And
Yeah, I mean, I think
not.
a part of it's just like you got to think about their motivations here. They were trying to line everything up just right, where the theme park opens up, and the theme park is very Mario right now, and then so you're talking like there's reasons to hype up that, and you are going to be bringing out 3D Mario Deluxe at some point. And so like let's do all this stuff with the 3D Mario All Stars or whatever it ends up being, and then we also have a Mario movie in the works. It's coming soon. We could probably drop a trailer, and we need something, a little bit of something to juice us through the holidays when these new systems come
And
out.
I'm sure Mario is going to have some cute appearance during the Olympics and something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like if you want to fight against PS5 and Xbox Series X a little bit, you put out a Mario themed console to help juice sales and all this stuff. It's like all these things probably were supposed to line up alongside the Olympics, and then which is when the theme park was going to open up. So when all that stuff kind of went sideways, yeah, there was fewer reasons to do that, and it doesn't mean that they aren't going to still do it this year. I think they probably are. Yeah, you're right. Like, I think maybe like 3D World Deluxe, I wouldn't be surprised if that is now like a January game or like early next year.
See, I was almost wondering is like 3D Deluxe the one that comes out this year.
It could yes, it could be either way. Yes, totally.
I mean, I wish it was the other way, but I would imagine 3D World would be the easier one to get out.
Yeah. So, we'll see. There should be something happening soon with Nintendo.
There's some news on that theme park thing too, or kind of rumblings in the theme park community that. So in Japan, it's basically done, and they're building like the smaller version of it in Hollywood that is just basically the Mario Kart ride. And the big version was going to be in Orlando in that third Universal theme park. That third Universal theme park is probably like completely on hold now.
Oh wow!
Like the land's been cleared, and that's it. Because everyone saw in the news that Disney had an awful quarter. Universal, did too, because it's the same thing. Their revenue is money in theme parks, so they were hurt pretty bad. And
so just like paying for it might be an issue. Is that kind of what it is?
Right. Well, it's just like you're getting no money coming in from theme parks. It's hard to invest in it right now to make your shareholders happy. But so presumably though, like while everything else that was planned for that park is probably just like shelved or maybe not, what's ever gonna come to light. Nintendo might be going back to the original plot of land in just the Universal Studios theme park in Florida, which is like where the old kiddie section was, which would have enough land to still do like all of that they wanted, including the Donkey Kong thing. Although like the thinking is if they do build it there, they would not build Donkey Kong right away. Like maybe they would hold off on that or never do that because they need to like kind of cut some money out of there somehow. But obviously the timetable of like the Orlando version of the Nintendo World like being a thing that was going to happen like 2022 is not the case.
Oh, man, that's a shame. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I'm just like that was kind of thing where I was like, man, the kids will be just old enough. I could save some money.
And the best you're either going to have to take them to Japan or you're going to have to go to Hollywood for like, and again, like the Hollywood version, I'm sure will be cool, but it's just going to be that Mario Kart ride, which should be amazing. And like, some of the other stuff, like I'm sure you'll still have like Toad's Cafe, but you're not going to have the Yoshi Dark ride and you're not going to have any of the Donkey Kong Country stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad I didn't know any of this, so I'm glad you gave me that update. But it's a shame. But yeah, not surprising. It does feel like, of course,
Right.
if I was in their situation and I don't know what the future's going to be like, are people going to return in numbers I need them to make this stuff make sense? You just
Right,
don't
'cause
know
they
yet.
don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know how long it's going to be, and even when it's like okay, it's going to be a
Right.
trickle, right? Because I mean, they were Disney and Universal basically been in a race since like the Harry Potter stuff exploded, and it kind of had to reach a tipping point
Yeah.
eventually, or a wall. And I think COVID is the wall where they're going to slow down their massive expansion plans. And a third theme park, which seemed like a no-brainer a year ago, suddenly seems like a scary thing to invest in right now for Universal.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'll have to rethink my plans then. We'll see where we're gonna go. All right. And then yeah, I think in terms of like other stuff happening with Nintendo, if you're like really waiting for them to do something, I think they're gonna start doing more stuff this month. And then I was saying this on the show that I was on last night, the Nintendo Shack podcast, that by the middle of September we should have a general direct, I believe.
Like an actual direct.
Yeah, my understanding is the way that it's phrased is not a mini is how like literally that was the line that like
this one won't have a disclaimer telling us to lower our expectations.
I think so, yeah, and we're due one of those, right? That's got to happen eventually. I guess there's other
ones. When was the last actual one? Like January?
No, it was last year, man. It's been like yeah,
no,
yeah, it's been like I think. There might have been maybe December, maybe there was one. I can't remember exactly, but it's been since 2019. There was never a general direct in 2020.
We had that Pokemon thing that like announced the DLC, and that was not a direct.
Right,
oh, no.
Exactly. So,
no.
Yeah. So yeah, look out for some indie shows, I think, and some other stuff. But we'll get the full rundown of what they're planning here pretty soon. Finally. Although to be fair, Microsoft did just move. This is not something they announced. It's not a real delay. But internally, they moved their Xbox Lockhart Series S announcement from late August into September. So people can still delay stuff.
I wonder why they would do that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like they're terrified to reveal a price or anything.
Yeah, man, both of them are. Everyone's and that's in my comments, in my tweets, in my replies. People are always like, Microsoft's afraid to show the price, and then the Microsoft fanboys are like, Sony's afraid to show the price, and I'm guys like, what if I told you they're both terrified to reveal the price? Like, what if it's both of them? It clearly is.
No, one of them's good.
Yeah, exactly. One of them's awesome. The other one's
my friend.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, get your head inside of your asses.
It is incredible, like especially because like you have all these followers now, and if you retweet one of my tweets that become popular, and just like the amount of like booger eating fanboys I'm exposed
I'm
to
so
now.
Sorry.
Like I'm like, these still exist.
Yes, they still exist. It's it has been eye opening. I'm like, oh man, I need to just get over it. It's like I'm pretty tired from like all the COVID stuff. So just mentally, when this stuff happens, it's just kind of getting to me a little bit. I got to get back to that like strong point where it's just like mute. Don't even worry about it. We'll see if I ever get that strength back, Mike. Probably not.
I don't know. I think that strength's gone.
Yeah, for real.
We used to last a bit to climb up the stairs to Mount Doom.
Yeah, exactly.
We need Gandalf to carry us.
I might have been the ring. I don't know, but yeah, now I'm just gonna lay down here for now.
We're out of Lambus bread.
Exactly. There's no ego coming. Okay. So what have you been playing, Mike? We should just hop into those games.
Well, we both played that Tony Hawk demo.
Yeah. That's good, I think. It's good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. I mean, I was playing it on PlayStation 4, and it seemed to run very well there. I mean, it's simple. It's basically kind of like the original Tony Hawk, like Pro Skater demo you got from Pizza Hut or whatever. You can play like, the warehouse level, the first level from Tony Hawk 1. You can only beat Tony Hawk. But, I mean, it feels right.
Feels good.
Like, I know when like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater like HD or whatever came out, that felt a little weird. This feels good.
It felt mostly okay, but it was just off enough. And this feels like really, it feels right on point.
Right.
I was digging it. I was like just playing over and over and over again, and I was doing really good combos, even with like the low spec character, because you are like the early version of Tony Hawk who doesn't have all
so it's
the
hard
upgrades.
to get like it's hard to get enough height to do 900s and stuff.
Right,
Like you
exactly.
can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You have to do 900 perfectly. Even if you don't do that, you're gonna fail them. But like I know, I was stringing together awesome combos, and it felt like I was able to balance the balance meter well
Yeah.
enough, even when it was being
I
really
mean,
fast.
it's been a long time since I played Tony Hawk 1 or 2, but yeah, it felt right. It looked really good. I liked, you have the manual, you have the reverts, you have like the
Right.
kind of the newer tricks there. The only like big difference that I noticed was that you don't like mash the button to get up when you fail a trick anymore. You kind of just like
Yeah.
teleport back into place,
Yeah.
which
Just like a
it
VHS sort of effect.
yeah, it's like a visually a little weird, but I'm like, whatever. I get it.
Yeah, and it's
I'm
it kind of fits I think with modern gaming a little bit. Like it's quicker, like it's not as
Mhm.
punishing, and I think that's kind of a good thing. I also tested it. I remember we did a video a long time ago with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 and trying to restart a stage. Excuse me, and that took it took like several seconds, like I think upwards of like 10 seconds, and that was absurd. Tony Hawk game had never done that, and this game was like within 2 seconds I was playing the level again. So it's like okay, I can live with that. That's fine. Hopefully the final version's even faster, but 2 seconds is totally acceptable. So if I
Right,
like
right.
want to try to nail like that perfect combo in that 2 minute span, I can just restart over and over and over again, which is important to me. That's how I play Tony Hawk. So, um,
But
yeah,
I'm
looking
certainly
forward to this.
excited for it. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it seems like I almost feel like I know exactly what I'm gonna get, and I'm all about it.
yeah, exactly. It is they are delivering what they promised, and that is to me exactly what I want. So it is.
Mhm.
I was looking forward to it before, and now I'm even more excited for it. So it was also just a successful demo.
Yeah.
Probably exactly what they want from this game, from this demo to accomplish. So yeah, but that's pretty much all I had time for this past week. I got a couple other things. I got like Flight Simulator for review. I'll be playing that more, but I can't talk about it quite yet. I don't believe. But what have you been playing?
Well, after last week with your endorsement, I got Panzer Paladin.
Yeah.
Actually beat that last night.
Oh, what'd you think?
So I liked it. It was really fun. I think that it was I don't know if a bit long is the word, but it has a lot of levels without necessarily introducing many new ideas to
Okay.
justify there being so many new levels, right?
Hmm.
Like all the levels were on their own good, but like kind of like as a sequence, they're all pretty similar. It's all kind of the same platforming tricks, a lot of the same repeated enemies and stuff like that, right? Like it's kind of like the opposite of like what we say is so brilliant about like some Mario games
Right.
sometimes, or even like Mega Man 9, like each level kind of had some kind of like a special gimmick or something. There's not too much of that here. But the combat felt good. I liked how like the swords were also like items. Like you don't have like energy drops or life drops like some swords you can break to give yourself health.
Right.
But right. Although like it was a little broken because it has like a bit of like that Final Fantasy Mega Elixir problem where any sword that said restore your health to full, I just kept, and then when I got to the final boss, I had like 7 of them. So
Right.
final boss became trivial. Uh, so just some I guess some pacing things, but it looked really good. I like the cutscenes a lot. Actually, they were pixelated cutscenes, but they had this kind of like Gundam anime quality
Hmm.
to them, which was attractive. But yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear. It seemed like I think I get what you mean. Like it seemed like they had a lot of good ideas for like the art for the bosses, like the
The
monsters.
bosses are all great.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
and they
bosses are
all
super fun. Like
and so
that's the sorry.
no, I was just saying. So if you have all that stuff, you kind of need levels to go with all of them,
Right.
and so it's kind of like this problem of like, oh, too much of a good thing almost. So yeah, I
Right.
get
Because
it.
like first, so like Mega Man you choose from 8 bosses. Here it's 10. I'm
Right.
like, okay, maybe that's too many. And then after that, it's like you kind of have a Wily's Castle where you have a bunch of like these linear levels. And like, okay, so there's gonna be a few of these. And there were like 6 or 7 of those. And I was
Right.
like, okay.
I, mean,
And
you
like
get,
each one was still really long and like
yeah.
and it wasn't never like too difficult or anything. So yeah, I don't know. It's like I was sometimes like getting almost a little fatigued.
Yeah, I guess like if you're a developer working on this kind of game as well, like you're worried about the value proposition and making people feel like they
Sure.
get their money's worth. So I get it, but I understand. I agree with like your perception here that where it's like you do kind of want to make sure that pacing is pretty tight. That's what I prefer, but I get some people want to make sure that they're getting their money's worth. So
So it's good. It's not like a brilliant like on the level of like a Shovel Knight or something like that.
sure,
Right?
but it's like it's a
worth
good
playing
one
through.
of one of the things it's trying to be, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I liked it more than probably the new Curse of the Moon, for instance, I
Okay,
suppose. Yeah.
right.
So, yeah, as far as these kind of like retro 2D side scrolls go, I think it's certainly one of the better ones.
All right, Mike. Then what's going on with World of Warcraft? Tell me what's going on there.
Oh gosh, big achievement today.
All right.
So there's mounts in World of Warcraft, right? And some of them are rare. And there's this specific monster who will spawn like every 20 to 30 minutes in this specific spot. And he has a 1 in 200 chance to drop like it's like a mechanical wheel that you can ride in. It's kind of a mount. I don't know why I won this, but I did. I was like, and I have 6 characters who are at the max level that I can like park where this guy spawns. So every day, and like each character can kill him once a day for a chance at this. So while I was doing whatever else, I would have World of Warcraft open somewhere. I'd be on one of those characters. He would just be standing there, and I would just wait for this guy to spawn. And when he did, you would just like tag him with an attack, which everybody does. And eventually he dies, and then you see if like the random number generator dice gives you your toy. I've been doing this for about 3 months, like every day.
Man.
And it's like a 1 in 200 chance. Like today, so I killed him the 200th time, and I didn't get it. I was like, oh god. Then the very next time, 201, the stupid mount dropped.
Oh, of course,
so I finally got this thing. It's so funny because like I had like the endorphin rush, like oh, it had finally happened, but I was shocked more than anything because I got to this point, like my rhythm was just be efficient and kill this thing 6 times a day. Like that was my goal more so than getting the mount, was just the efficiency of it. So when I actually got the thing, I was like stunned. I couldn't move for a second. I was like, what? This must be a mistake. I wasn't expecting this.
Well,
So,
I'm happy for you. I think
you're impressed, I think is what you meant
yes,
to
I'm
say.
impressed. Man, video games are weird, but that is the kind of thing I like to hear. That is, yeah. It's just like this is what we do with video games. A lot of times, it's like, man, if we really examine how we're using our time, boy, is it questionable. But
Yeah,
everything you said there, I'm like, man, yeah, no, I appreciate this. This is I appreciate what he's done here.
Just months of build up for like this one little pop of happiness.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and
All right, good.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I had this thought when I was I have a couple I have a new monitor mount here that's holding up 2 monitors, and I was setting it up the other day, and I was thinking like, man, I'm gonna set this thing up, and it's gonna be really satisfying, and then I'm gonna not really have a lot of time to actually go over and sit at that computer. I'm still gonna be on my laptop most of the time, but it's still really nice to just set stuff up, and I'm like, oh, that's what Animal Crossing is. It's just setting stuff up, and you know, like things are barely interactive. Like you set up the arcade machine. It's not like you get to play those games, but you get to set up your arcade all nice, and that there's something about that I really jive with, and that's why I like those games so much. It is like updating the drivers on your computer so you're ready to play games, and then as soon as you get all that done, you go do something else instead of playing the games. So yeah,
Exactly.
and I think a lot of games play on that sort of mindset. So yeah, I get it. I don't know, but anything else that you've been touching on? Anything else you've been playing? Anything else you could talk about? I don't know.
No, that was a lot of it, and I have to go to the bathroom pretty bad, so I'm wrapping you up.
Let's wrap up then. All right, tell people where they can find you on the internet, Mike.
You can find me at gamesbeat.com. You can also find me at 90sdisney.com, which is my Disney podcast about that decade specifically.
And I'm Jeff Grubb in most places. On YouTube, it's youtube.com/JeffreyGrubb, where you could find the video version of this podcast. You can also find the video version of How Games Make Money, which is my other podcast, also available on Spotify or wherever you find your podcasts. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Take care of yourself. Have a good one. Until next week, goodbye.
Bye.